Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, everyone. It's been a while since I've been in this chair. And yes, I'm referring to the Happy Strong Family weekly live stream. We're here broadcasting on the second floor of the Masjid Darul Iman Islamic Center here in Markham. And to my right is Brother Farhan Yusuf. One time school teacher. He currently is a school teacher with York Region and a principal designate, but one time grade 7 teacher to my eldest daughter, Alicia.
Yep.
So that's how we know each other.
Correct.
And the focus of this episode is to discuss parenting from the lens of an educator. Right. We've had educators here on the show in the past, and they've talked up education and the education system and how to navigate the education system and how to approach the principal and how to approach the teacher and whatnot. But this time we kind of wanted to flip this session on its head and say, okay, Brother Farhan, you are a teacher. You're a principal designate, so you understand how you and I always discuss off air, off camera, the administration, right? And you're a parent. Right? You're a parent of 2 wonderful children yourself. 3. Yeah. Sorry, and I stand 4. Corrected. 4. And I always say 3 or 4 is the new 2.
Yeah. There you go.
So there you go. So now let's jump right into it, man.
Okay.
So
do we want to also introduce Aisha, who's going to be off screen, but she's here too.
Is that the case? Okay. So we're going to introduce Aisha Bhabi, Farhan Bhai's wife, and Aisha Bhabi has decided to be off camera. So that's cool. But she's going to kind of be the voice. I was about to say the voice of God. Sorry, it's a very corporate term for kind of any kind of promos and broadcasts. Please don't take that out of context. Don't snip at that. She's going to be the voice in the background. Sorry, this is just me being corporate me. No, she will be the voice in the background. So, so we will have Aisha Bhabi kind of come in and out of a conversation. But she is here in the studio. She's not remote or anything like that, but she's here in the studio. In fact, she's behind my camera here, but again, she just doesn't want to be in front of the camera. So, all right.
Sure.
So
let's get started.
Aisha, Farhan, let's get this started. You guys are both educators and both parents. And just in terms of context, Aisha Bhabi is a teacher with Toronto District School Board, about 17 years of experience, right? Aisha, and Farhan has about 20 or 21 years of experience. Wow, a veteran. You guys are both veterans. So combined, you guys have like 40 years of experience practically. You guys are all smiles on that. Awesome. Awesome. So now with all of this experience, again, like 4 decades of experience being teachers, does that translate well to being a parent? What if like when you go to like, you know, family parties or functions or a dinner party or like, you know, as part of adulting when you're sitting around a dining table with another parent, what do you provide them any kind of golden nuggets of advice, or do you just kind of keep things on the quiet and be like,
no, actually, like we do get questions quite a bit.
Yeah.
And one of the advantages that me and Aisha and I have is that I'm like a intermediate, you know, junior intermediate teacher, and she is like a primary teacher. So it becomes like questions about like the transition going from like elementary school to high school, questions like you know, after school tutoring, questions like, you know, for intermediate grades, you know, so those are the type of questions that, and even the programs like the high school programs that are available now in the school boards are a lot more different when me and you were younger, you know, going to high school. So I get questions like that. And then Aisha obviously gets like, you know, more of a primary, you know, piece in terms of how to read, I'm guessing. Like what are some of the
like just again the problems that they might be facing at school with the primary is very different from intermediate. Friendships, grades, you know, teacher, how to connect with the teacher. So it is different from the intermediate. Also being parents really helps because we have both primary, junior and intermediate in our home. So that also brings us a lot of experience as well, along with our teaching.
So then, guys, as an open question to either of you, what is it fair to ask? Is there like a number one question that you guys get like all the time, or is there like a top three? Like, again, because you are in that unique position of being a teacher, you guys have a unique inside view with what's been going on in the public school system. And then as on top of that, like, being a Muslim parent, right? So are there like questions that kind of strike you and that you get a lot?
One of the questions that I get quite a bit with older for older students is the motivation piece, because they feel like, oh, I'm telling them to go to this program, but they want to do that program. So just that conflict piece that's there.
Okay.
So that's a big one for me. Another one that's a big one is that the teacher has marked them unfairly, or the teacher is not like, teacher's doing this to them, or the teacher's doing that to them. Like, how do I go around? And that becomes very tricky, because their fear becomes that, oh, what if they get flagged, or what if it's like, they get a bad rep, and all of a sudden, they're just like, the teacher tells them about, like, the next teacher tells them about oh, this is how he was, like little pieces like that. So how did they navigate that? So those are two like questions that.
All right, Aisha.
Quite a bit.
For primary, I would say there's two that I usually get. Bullying. A lot of parents have concerns. It could be social bullying, online bullying. So classroom bullying, on the field bullying. I feel like that's on the rise, and parents often ask, like, what should I do? And I remind them that there is a zero tolerance in the schools. You have to discuss this with the teacher. If you're finding there's something going on, the teacher might not know. So, like, as observant as we try to be, we might miss little things, especially on the playground. There's things we might not always know about. So it's really important for parents to make sure if they hear anything. This is why it's really important to have close relationship communication with your children, so you know what's going on in their lives, and make sure this isn't happening. So this is one thing. Secondly, just about parent communication. A lot of parents feel like, oh, I don't know what's going on in my child's life. How do I find out? And I always remind them, find out how to communicate with your teacher. Talk to your teacher. I find as a teacher, the parents that are talking to me more, I'm returning that as well. So the ones that come to me talking to me about their children, I often go to them and also update them, right? So it's really important that just to remind them that this is something that goes both ways.
Okay.
There was one more I was going to say. Help. Often parents find that my child's not doing well. What do I do? So then they're looking for tutoring. How can I help my child more? So then I always advise them, look at school if there's extra help. Otherwise, if there's extra work you can be provided. This is where, again, it's really important to have a good communication with the teacher.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So let's unbox this. Unbox this. Like, let's kind of deconstruct this now a little bit more. Farhan, you mentioned that I guess it's always that divide between kids growing up and parents' expectations, right? And especially, I think, from a South Asian Muslim perspective, again, I've said it all the time. My parents are originally from India. My wife's side of the family is originally from India, but then they migrated over to Karachi, Pakistan. So as the typical kind of brown parent, the Desi parent, is always like, beta, you have to become either a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. And then I kind of slide into a very fake Indian accent, which is horrible. But has that changed? Is it now like more parents saying, I just don't understand what my child is going to become, for fear of them not becoming something professional, something tangible?
I still think it's there. It's still like in a lot of people's, like even the upcoming generation of new parents, is still in their mind, professional degrees. And I think for me, when I give my 2 cents in, I always like put the emphasis on keeping your options open.
Yeah.
Right. And the way our Ontario curriculum is, for example, in science, and I tell my students this all the time, is that, when it comes to like grade 6 all the way up to grade 10 science, you have different components that are there. So for
Mhm.
example, in grade 6 there's space, and then you revisit space in grade 9 and grade 10.
Okay.
And in grade 5 you have structures, and then you revisit structures in grade 7. So and it's up to grade 10. Even electricity, for example, comes back in grade 9. You learn it in grade 6, and the curriculum is designed that way. And the reason why it's designed that way is because you get options in terms of what you enjoy.
Okay.
So even for myself, like I tell them that biology doesn't interest me as much as chemistry. So the whole goal is to kind of leave their options open. And I'm a full support of like summer school, even online school to that extent, just to get extra credits. Because then what starts happening is, like, my daughter, I kind of encourage her to take the grade 8. There's a grade 8 summer after graduating grade 8. There's a course that the York Region School Board offers. It's a summer class, summer
Mhm.
course, and it's
Mhm.
for 3 or 4 weeks, but it gives you a grade 9 credit.
Oh.
So before even starting grade 9, you get a
Wow.
credit in your pocket.
Huh.
So I think it's called GLD. And what happens with that is that now she has an extra credit in her pocket. Therefore, she in grade 10 she decides to take photography.
Mm.
So then again opens up the lens, and now she has taken summer school in grade 9, planning to take summer school in grade 10. So now she has like options in terms of like, I want to do co-op and see what I enjoy
Right.
in my grade 11 year. And you're able to do that because you have all these credits kind of
Right.
put in.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
So it is there, but the whole goal is to, it's like one of those, if you have the passion for it and the love for it, it's just you strive in it, and
Yeah.
and you want to. I do agree with it, getting a professional degree, like, that's always the concept in our family as well, in our culture as well.
Mhm.
And then get your professional degree and then enjoy what you're doing on the side. My daughter, like, enjoys cooking, and I'm like, yeah, take your cooking class, have it on the side, but then have a career along with cooking,
Right. Right. So let's kind of do an extension on this. Okay. Let's kind of take this a step further. Would you, maybe this is you wearing your kind of guidance counselor hat a little bit,
Right.
like, have you guys seen, and Aisha, please feel free to contribute, have you guys seen more options to various different careers, either coming into the school, maybe like university, sorry, not so much in the elementary school, I get that, or primary, but maybe within the secondary school system, other universities and colleges saying like, hey, we're offering like a criminology degree, right? We need more forensic scientists, more, to borrow from the mainstream term, the CSIs, crime scene investigators for York Region Police, right? It's not like it's not, I'd say, like a mainstream career, like, you're very stereotypical doctor, lawyer, engineer, as we've already established. It's kind of outside of that. But just at a high level, or maybe you want to get into the nitty gritty, what are you seeing as careers? Again, you're in the school space, right? As an extension of that would be like, hey, I'm going to uni, I'm going to college, obviously for what? A career. Right. So, but has that definition of career changed really from like you and I being parents and growing up?
Right. It definitely changed, because now the careers are changing, like, as time is progressing, right? As technology is progressing, more and more new careers are coming up. And it is a little bit scary even for my own kind of, my own child, because it's like, which direction they're going to head towards that might not lead into a career that might even exist or gets replaced with AI or something. But one of the parts that I do encourage to looking into, especially if you have kids that were not unsure of what career they want to head towards, is like apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is something that's another program that's offered in the high school level, and not that I'm pushing for it, but skilled trades is definitely something on the rise.
Yeah.
Right. Skilled trades are declining as they're seeing in the future. So they are pushing a lot for skilled trades. I know they're pushing a lot for nurses. So those are the categories of jobs that are going to be, predicted in terms of future-wise. But in terms of the technology aspect, the CSI, all that stuff, the AI, it's still too hard to predict. I feel the option again is to have like more of a experience in different categories. So then, when that time comes, you can narrow down on one.
Okay.
Keep your options open.
All right.
It's good to also encourage your child to volunteer. I find more kids in this generation are volunteering now and trying out different things.
All right. Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of volunteerism. Anybody who knows me,
Mhm.
it's all about service to others. So
Mhm.
now let's take your point number 2 about being known as like a trouble kid, I guess, amongst teachers.
Mhm.
Does that happen? Can you talk about that candidly, hopefully, for our
What do you mean?
audience?
What do you mean?
So, I won't mention who, but there was someone in my family, brilliant, bright kid. Her parent was kind of a little bit like, obviously as parents, we obviously have to take the side of our child, right? But maybe the parent kind of went like, hey, you're not marking my child correctly. My child is so and so. My child's a brilliant student. Yada yada yada. You're not giving her the marks she deserves, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does that play out as a teacher? And do teachers like you were saying, right? You don't want to be labeled, I think is what the word you used.
Right. This is a really tricky question.
Yeah,
and the whole idea of like, this is where that one size, doesn't fit all kind of thing. It just, depends on situation to situation.
Mm-hmm. And again,
but
just to understand it as a parent, right?
Right.
Just as a parent, we understand what goes on.
Okay, so you have to trust the teacher. And I remember one of the things that I recently heard is that parents and teachers both, when they work together, they both have the same goal, right? Is to see their students succeed and to see their child succeed, right? They both have the same goal. So it's like, if you have that kind of like the aggressive approach, automatically the teacher takes either an aggressive approach back or a more of a defensive approach, so it's just, and both ways are not good, because the idea is to kind of work together. And so I think both of us strongly feel that having that communication, having that conversations, if supposing there is a mark that comes, even as a parent, a mark comes and I don't fully agree with it, you have to take that route of saying, what can he do better? Like what can they do? What can my child do better? Or what are your next step suggestions? So it kind of like, again, like, it doesn't feel, as educator, it doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like, oh, they really care. They really want to like know about their child, and they're asking me, and I feel great about it. They're respecting me. So then we are more inclined towards having that open dialogue than just saying you did this wrong.
Aisha, you want to?
Yeah. So this happened with one of our child, like the marks. He was upset because he said, I did so well. I just didn't do one. I didn't get enough marks in one section, which affected the overall mark of the test. So he was really upset. He's like, I did, just because of that one section. Right. So then I talked to the teacher about it. I'm like, this is how he's feeling. Can you tell me what happened? And then she clarified that this isn't going to affect his overall grade, which I'm so glad I communicated that. And my son felt better about that too. So it's really important to find out. And of course, it's natural to get upset at first, right? But the teacher's job is to have assessment on that child, right? So teachers will usually pull out grades and assessment to ensure that this is why they're the grade that they're getting. This is the reason, right? They should have more information,
right?
So it's usually not like it's fair. Teachers try to be as fair as possible, and it's really important for parents to make sure that they can. And this is why we have the progress reports, right? We have that in the beginning of the year so that teachers can see how they're progressing, right?
Right.
So it doesn't mean that's where it ends. You can meet with the teacher again to find out, how they're doing. And, if you're not happy with something, talk to the teacher. There's more to it, right?
Yeah.
So, and sometimes teachers are willing to give a second chance too, if there's a reason that maybe the child wasn't feeling well, maybe they missed out on something and weren't able to write the test. So again, comes back to communication.
So you gave Aisha a really strong example of communication, right? Out of your 3 points, the 2, I think, in terms of commonality, was definitely how to bridge that gap between parent-teacher, teacher-parent communication, right? So that was a great example. Now let's discuss a little bit more about, let's do a deep dive into bullying, right? We've discussed cyberbullying in the past here on this podcast series, but tell us about on the field bullying. That's a new one to me. What does that mean, and what are you seeing, and how can parents address that? Or how, likewise, how can children or students, kids address that as well, please?
Yeah. So we often talk about signs of bullying. Bullying is anything that's repetitive, right? So if a child teases another child, it's a one-time or two-time things, we usually don't define that as bullying, right? Now, if it's happening often, it's the same child that's maybe getting pushed on the field, getting made fun of. Usually I tell the student, you need to report that right away, like when that's happening over and over again. The kids are becoming very familiar with the definition of bullying at school. So when they see that, or if a child sees another child getting bullied, alhamdulillah, they're coming and they're talking to the teachers about it. And we tell them it's okay. There's always that fear that, I don't want to tell on, so-and-so. But this is something I remind them that it's going to become bigger. And it's funny because sometimes not funny, but it's interesting because sometimes kids are getting bullied by kids even younger than them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and they don't recognize that, right? And they're embarrassed to tell that because they think, they're younger, it's embarrassing to tell that, but it's happening. It's happening in the playground where there's a kid that's constantly calling another child. Like I teach grade 2 and there could be a grade 1 or a kindergarten that's like, making fun of that child.
Right.
And it's affecting them. It's affecting their day at school. It's affecting the way they feel about themselves, right? There's self-esteem. So this is bullying. And the most important thing is knowing the signs of bullying.
Right.
And it's important for the teacher to do that, but also the parents. They have to talk to their kids about bullying to make sure that that's not happening to them, because sometimes they might not know and it's affecting their mental health, so yeah.
Okay.
And I had a parent. There's a Islamic school in Markham, Islamic Academy in Markham, and there's a parent that I know, and that parent actually we're close friends, and that parent actually reached out to me. Their child goes there, and he basically said that there's some sort of behavior change. My son's a little bit quiet.
Oh,
and so what happened was in that case, there was some sort of conversation happening, and it's, and unfortunately, bullying is everywhere. And as long as there's conversations happening between the parent and the child, the parent can address it, and the parent can kind of like figure out what the next steps are.
Okay.
So to me, it's like, even for myself, like and my own kids, like the idea is that I push for the concept of like, hey, you know what? Kind of observe them and see how their day-to-day is going and see if there's anything that's off, and then based on that, I'm able to as a parent take the next steps.
Right. So what happened there? You were saying with this child at the Islamic Academy of Markham, what happened? What was the end of the situation?
So again, the end of the situation was the situation was honestly having a conversation with the parent, with the teacher, and that literally solved everything. He called me back. He's like, this was great. The teacher was aware, and the teacher addressed it, and move forward. So that's the thing. And then that was it. And if like the parent did not observe that, just like how Aisha said, it just would keep on escalating,
right,
to a point that will be even more harder to like derail it back.
And can I just mention?
Yeah, sure.
It's really important to talk about anti-bullying. Like, not wait for something to happen. So, this is something at our schools we talk about. We have the Pink Shirt Day. It's all about using preventative measures.
Right.
So really
awareness, prevention are key.
And in our board, we really push on like the bystander concept. That don't be a bystander. Like if you're seeing something, if you're witnessing something, you have to like come up, because if you don't, you're being like the bully as well. So, and one thing about the board what I really like is that they start all the way from K. So that's embedded in them from K all the way up to get to the high school. So it's I am noticing that as being there for so many years, as educator so many years, it is improving, right? So it is the only thing that I feel that becomes a little bit more of a challenge is the online social media stuff,
right?
But again, like now the police gets involved with that, and
Yeah.
and they're able to pull out the data from posts that have been deleted, and go to the next step that way. So
Right.
so that's the only challenge that I'm seeing that I think the board is and the school board and the Ministry of Education is tackling fairly
Okay,
well
good,
so far.
good. No, it's always good to know. It's always good to know and reassuring as a parent that the boards, the teachers, and the parents. Again, it's all about being actively engaged with your child.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and just know that teachers might miss this sometimes, might not know what's going on. So if you see any signs, find out what's going on in your child's life. Be in
Right.
touch
Right.
with them all the time.
So now we have questions from the audience.
Okay.
So Farhan, Aisha, now you're going to, for our audience, our viewers, you've very often and every episode you've heard the voice of Kashif. So one time we definitely will have Kashif in front of the camera, but he's always our off-screen voice. So now we're gonna hand it over to Kashif to announce the questions. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. And as being off screen and behind the scenes here, I always get the opportunity to kick off the questions with one of mine.
Yeah.
So we always, we talk about parenting a lot, but another thing we talk about is marriage. So hopefully this question doesn't get anyone into trouble. But for all the potential kids out there, youth looking for spouses, when your spouse is in the same field as you, does the same job as you, a pro or a con, or what advice do you have? Any caution? What should they be cautious of?
So we're all laughing here in the studio because I should have mentioned this up front and made it clear. Farhan and Aisha are married. So, and I've known you guys for a while, and because you were my daughter's grade 7 teacher, I mean, Aisha Bhabi, I've known you now, for almost a year and a half. And the way I kind of met you two, and I kind of just immediately blurted out upon having known you two were teachers, I'm like, oh wow, you guys you must have great like dining table, dinner type of conversations, right? Because Aisha, you're with Toronto District School Board, known as TDSB. You're with York Region District School Board. So now Kashif obviously is kind of taking all of that and smashing it together and kind of bringing in the relationship angle, because that's what we also talk about here at the Happy Strong Family. So now me kind of gushing over the two of you, I'm just going to let you two answer that question. You guys are both teachers. You're married as well. So how does that work out?
Can I just say that when I was young, I never wanted to marry someone in the same field. Right? I'll be honest with you.
I'm glad we got that out of the way.
I'll be honest with you, because I was afraid that we're not gonna have time for each other, or depending on, again, it depends on the profession, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, how are we gonna? We might have arguments, disagreements, So, but I have to say, Alhamdulillah, we have great conversations. We support each other, and we this has been, alhamdulillah, successful. So
Alhamdulillah.
If I would advise, again, it depends on the profession. I don't know how 2 doctors might work out, have time for each other, or 2 people in IT, that's a little different. So that I'm not sure, but for teachers, alhamdulillah, I think it's been
it works. Alhamdulillah, it works really well, because you have, I think what makes us also different too is that the age grades, like the she's primary and I'm intermediate, so that helps kind of think just to kind of change it up a little bit. But it's nice to have, like, even as parents, both of us, like, having that same lens and working together is, mashallah, has helped quite a bit.
I don't know how the kids feel about it though, having
two teachers in the house, for sure. But I have a cousin that is married to, he's a lawyer, and he's married to a lawyer, and that, alhamdulillah, relationship is amazing too. So they are, like I said, it's hard, just like how Aisha said, it's hard to kind of predict other fields. But for educators, you get the same holidays,
yes,
so
okay,
a lot of traveling time, so it's really nice.
Awesome.
It's really nice.
Okay.
But it's a really good
That
question,
answers the question.
for sure. Yeah. So
I hope that answers the question,
Yeah.
Kashif.
That answers the question, yeah.
And you know what? Even at my school, I could easily tell you that I know, or in my friend circle, I could easily say that I know at least 7 couples that are teacher married, like the both are teachers. So
There you go.
There you
go.
mashallah.
All right. Thank you for
All right.
weaving the other angle of
honestly,
our Happy Strong
That's
Family
very
kind
good.
of curriculum into this.
Yeah, so I'll also ask a second question. So I have two young boys, and my wife and I made the decision to homeschool. So we're homeschooling our kids, and one of the reasons we did that was because from everything I've read and researched, I'm not saying I'm not saying pros or cons of anything, just a decision we made that worked for us, was that boys just develop and girls just develop at significantly different rates, right? And boys don't do well in that structured environment that they're being told what to do and stuff. So as parents, have you noticed this in your field? And as parents, should they approach? Because I think oftentimes even parents forget that boys and girls are wired different, maybe, right? And try to apply the same approach. What advice would you have for parents? Is there any differences when you're parenting boys or girls at the early age?
So as a primary teacher, I noticed that boys definitely, what I noticed over and over again, I'm just talking from experience, is that boys, I feel, have more energy. And automatically in the classroom, if we're having activities, they automatically go towards, the Lego building, block building, and then the girls will go towards, the more art and crafts, right? So I find that that's, again, in this day and age, it's about equality, but I do notice that naturally this is what the boys and girls gravitate towards. But what I feel is that because Yusuf, our son, like he being online, I find is really hard for him, right? He does Quran online and it's hard for him to sit still for a long time. So what I do is make sure that he gets other physical activities in his life. So being in sports is really important to him. There has to be that balance so he can let that energy out, because this is what I'm finding. Boys need that, as opposed to girls. Maybe they need something else to help. Yeah, what do you think?
To me, I remember listening to this lecture on Hamza Yusuf, and he was saying that you have a litter of kittens, and each kitten is acting very differently, right? You have one that's coming out outside the box, you have one that's like shivering in the corner, you have one that's sleeping all the time. So it's hard for me to answer that because of course, alhamdulillah, we have two boys and two girls, and for example, Aisha is the type, it's my eldest daughter, she needs that energy, she needs that out. Art, Zia is also the artsy type as well. So it's hard to say like the boys and the girls factor for myself, right? I think it's, again, like I said before, it's the observation, as you see it as your child. But there is a lot of research. For example, the board, our school board, came up with the boys' books and basketball to encourage boys to read more. So like there's little things like that has occurred to kind of encourage boys to develop more academically. I even stats wise, I think like grades wise, girls have more of a higher average compared to boys. So it's a hard question to answer because again, we can't put them all into the same category.
Yeah.
But it's just again the observation piece and seeing how even having 4 kids, all 4 of them are different.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And even for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like
father of 3.
Yeah. Father of 3.
All 3 are different. And I've talked this up many a time.
Yeah.
Many a time.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Kashif? Does that give you any kind of insight?
Absolutely. Jazakallah khair. So
do you see, Kashif, do you see the difference between the 2 boys yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the mistake we made, like the second time around, was thinking that everything would go the same as the first time around, and we do the same thing. But yeah.
What about energy-wise? Do you feel both have the same energy, or is it one?
The younger has a lot more energy. Yeah. That's for sure.
So okay. So again, because we're live, and this is just the nature of a live show, and lo and behold, we always magically get these cups of coffee. They're Tim's coffee, handed to us by brother Kaysar. Kaysar Ghalib is one of the founders of the Happy Strong Family team, and he's a father of 2 daughters. So maybe if we hand him a microphone over, and then Kaysar, hi, you can, brother, you can tell us about how it then is to raise 2 girls, 2 daughters. So maybe if you kind of want to just take the mic there and let us know your thoughts as well, please.
Assalamu alaikum, jazakumullah khairan for giving me the opportunity. Alhamdulillah, this is always a challenge, and Also, I see this as an opportunity too, to showcase your role modeling, how you are
Mhm.
try to strive and share your story and your journey in terms of how you are role modeling in light of Quran and Sunnah, and you take your kids in your journey and share the stories and demonstrate it, and that's how you really showcasing the practical case studies, the scenarios and volunteering opportunities. They see the struggle, they see the success, alhamdulillah, and that's how they learn both ups and downs, and that's how they develop their personality in terms of how to serve the community better and the masjid and other places. And of course, education is part of the process as well. You make sure that you set up the right environment, and you also place them in the right environment to for them to choose the right companions and learn from that environment. So I think that's a quick tips from me. Thank you.
Oh,
Jazakumullah khairan.
thank you, Kesar. Now, so let me ask this question, just as a kind of offshoot of that. Role modeling.
Mhm.
Do you guys see yourselves as role models? Does that ever kind of factor into your cognitive process? Like, do you wake up in the morning and be like, yeah, I'm a role model for my students, or does that come with being a teacher? Is that just part and parcel? Is that kind of the part of the DNA of a teacher, that you guys are kind of already, classically trained to be that role model, right? Because as parents, we're continually, at least nowadays, being told, you are a role model. And this is what our deen teaches us, right?
Mhm.
We are role models for our children, just like how the Prophet ﷺ was a role model for the entire ummah. And now as parents in, 2024, we are continually being told, be that role model for your child.
Mhm.
It starts at home. Be as a father, be a role model to your son. As a father, be a role model to your daughter,
Mhm.
and likewise for moms out there. But as teachers, is it just part of being a teacher?
Yeah, it's not only just in the school as being role models, but even outside the school. I remember when my principal telling me that he goes to hockey games to see his son play, and you could see all the other parents are like expressing their opinions to the coach or to the referee or to the other players or to their player or to their child, and he's like dying to say something and he just stays quiet, because again, he's always in the limelight. So that's how we have to kind of look at it in our aspect too, like especially both of our mosque is Darul Iman. So like we always make sure that not only just we're role models to our own students, like to the community as well.
I think we try our best to be role
Try our
models.
best, yeah, definitely.
But we're adults and they're children, right? So we might not always do exactly what we want them to do, right?
Mhm.
So one little example is like me drinking coffee in front of my students, right?
Right.
And they'll be like, coffee isn't good for you, right? And that's something I feel like I need once in a while, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
automatically then I'll be like, okay, they're right. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't drink it in front of them as much, because I am role modeling. They are looking up to me, right? So sometimes I will be reminded of that, but we try our best,
Try our best.
right? And
That's a great relatable example. Oh my gosh, thank you for that
Yeah.
honest
While we're
answer.
drinking
cup of
coffee
coffee
too,
helped
it's
me.
like-
Thank you for that honest answer. Okay, that's good. That's good. Now, Producer Kashif, I know you've been flashing on the screen here that there's questions from the audience, so let's get to them, please.
Yep. So there's one here that's saying, thanks for arranging. What differences can you summarize in regards to family routine and habits for students that are successful versus those that are not? So I don't know if
okay.
you observed anything, but have you noticed a difference between like successful and successful students and their family sort of
I would
routines and
say
habits?
I would say both parent involvement. Like I feel that in if you're able to, right, the father being involved and the mother being involved, because both of them play like a heavy role
Okay.
in their child's development, and
This is where
again,
role modeling comes
and then
in
this is
too.
where the role modeling comes in as well, right?
Right. Now, so in terms of like routines and habits, though, like is it just that classical, hey, go to bed early, don't stay up late when it's a school night, wake up in the morning? Like what would you guys recommend? Again, because you're in that enviable place. You are a parent and you're a teacher as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Slightly different
Yeah,
from each
slightly,
other.
yeah, it's different from each
So
other.
he'll
that
tell
way.
you about
Yeah. So do tell, please.
what works
So,
for
but
him.
that question, I didn't I know, I'm sorry, I'm going backtrack, but can I see that one more time? Those that are not, like, I don't agree with that, because I feel like every child is successful, right? So it's like, just like, habits of students that are successful versus those that are not. So I was like, well, every child is successful. I guess I would word it as such, is that what are some of the routine and habits for, students in general, kind of thing would be good.
Sure.
So bedtime, you're talking about bedtime, you really have to take a look at like the number of hours that they require, right? So I you could Google that in terms of the number of hours that are required, because obviously the brain needs that rest and the growth as well. Breakfast is very important, to kind of give them like a head start.
Okay,
to
the breakfast
like,
head start program, absolutely.
And we've seen that in even in commercials, like they've seen, like, showing that, a student who has breakfast is, more awake and so forth. So
Right.
breakfast
And
is
times are
obviously
changing. A lot of kids are not
having breakfast. Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
So
okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
We two of our four.
Yeah.
like,
2 or 4 don't eat breakfast.
prefer not to have
Yeah.
breakfast. But
Okay.
So they're older, but
Yeah.
it's just that's one of the things I'll push for sure.
Okay. Aisha, any kind of tips, comments, color commentary on this?
I also feel, Farhan, we do this, or you do this more. Learn from your mistakes.
Mhm.
So if a child goes to sleep late, the next day they can't wake up, right? And now they need a ride in the morning. Let's say, for example, now, sorry, you know what? You
Right.
chose to go to sleep late, and now you can't wake up. You're running late, so you're gonna have to figure that out.
Right.
So sometimes, you unfortunately, that kids do learn by mistakes, right? From experiences, right?
Yeah.
But overall, just having healthy habits, we find role modeling helps. Age is a big factor. So, the younger ones, our 2 younger ones, we have their bedtime routine, and consistency is really important.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, consistency.
Consistency,
is
yeah.
key.
Yeah.
Consistency
Yeah,
is
with
key.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the
You wanna
routine
make
as
it a
well,
habit and a
like,
routine, then
routine, like reading out loud. Like both of us read to both of our
Yeah.
sons, like every night. So like little things like that.
Okay.
And then they know what to
excited for.
expect as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just with them.
Okay. I mean, again,
Yeah.
that comes down to consistency, right?
Right.
The fact that
And even the after school routine in terms of doing like extracurricular or extra classes and so forth. We have that too.
I mean, that's the very definition of a habit
Right.
or a routine.
Exactly.
It's just consistency, right? Producer Kasha, let's get to the next question.
There's a question that came in from an audience member. I'm not going to display it on screen, but I'm just going to generalize it because they're talking about a very specific issue. I'm going to generalize it. That's more general.
Sounds good.
Like, how do you how do you work with teachers? So I guess I'll turn it into a 2-part question. One, how do parents get aware of the curriculum that's being taught? And how do you approach teachers if there's something being taught that your personal values, religious values, whatever it is that you don't agree with? So how do you sort of approach teachers on that about being aware of the curriculum?
Okay.
And if there's something in the curriculum that concerns you, having conversations with the teacher about that?
I think just open conversations with the teacher. And I think that's the thing.
Yeah, and I think first of all, the curriculum, you can find it online, which is great. It's open, everyone can see it, and that's exactly what the teacher follows, the Ontario curriculum. That's for both our boards. As far as like, I find it's really, really important to talk to the teacher and get to know the teacher. You can also find out what the teacher's values are just by having conversations, right? And then you get a better idea what kind of things are being taught. And you can, I mean, if there's some things that you don't want your child being taught, that you're concerned about, voice your opinion. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Tell the teacher, like, this is something that our family doesn't agree with, that we don't want our child being taught. And can I remove my child from this talk? You need to have that open conversation with
I'll say even not like say remove your child, but just ask them like, what can I, like, as a parent, like, what can I do, or as a teacher, what can you do to kind of make sure that these boundaries or these values are
enforced and respected.
Exactly. And but because the pulling out piece, like, it's but go ahead, no problem. It's just like that. There's no thinking process behind it. It's more like, okay, let's come up with a solution instead of giving that. If
At
it but
the
if it
same
comes down
time,
to it,
what's happening now, there might be things that are being taught throughout the year now.
right,
It's not
Right.
just a matter of certain times of the year. Now,
Right.
this is what
that we're
seeing.
Yeah, no, please
yeah,
go
yeah,
go right
So-
into this. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's why, if it's something, again, I think, talking to the teacher, you get a better idea of, their beliefs and what's
How
being
much it's
taught.
integrated
Even
into
looking
the-
at the classroom itself,
Yeah.
Right.
you can get an idea of what things are being taught. And if again, we're living in a country where we can voice our opinions and
Mhm,
have
mhm.
rights to speak. So I think it's important to voice your thoughts. This is how I feel.
Yeah,
Farhan.
I agree. I
So
agree.
you need to have that communication with the teacher again, and just say that these are some things, like, if you could please let me know, or what we can do to, like you in your
Mhm.
words, just
Mhm.
respect.
Right.
So yeah, it's really
Yeah.
important, and this is it's on the rise.
Right.
Some things.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to have that talk with the
Yeah,
teacher.
yeah, and we've had various other educators come in and explain the entire process top down,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right? Principal Omar Zia with Peel
Mhm, mhm.
school board, right? And whether, to your points, both of you, you want your child to have an exemption, or whether it's a specific form. Hey, I only want my child to eat halal food.
Correct.
I don't want them to do dance class. Just as some actual
Health
examples.
classes.
Health
Right,
classes
right.
because of the sex ed curriculum. I'll call it out for what it is. Have those conversations,
Mhm.
because the school board there is to assist, right? The school
Correct,
board
correct.
is, by design and by curriculum, it's an inclusive school
Correct,
board. And I'm
correct.
using the words purposefully because those are the exact words
Correct.
in the curriculum. And
Correct.
and please
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong,
No,
both
you're
of you.
absolutely right. Yeah.
And this is just my color commentary on it. Again, going back to the actual wording in the curriculum, it's an inclusive curriculum. Now, inclusive can mean including and inclusion of various other forms of thought, frameworks of thought. But as a Muslim parent and as a practicing Muslim, that inclusivity also includes me,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
I wish you could maybe even just sit a little bit beside Farhan, so maybe we see at least the shoulder and you're nodding with your head at least. Sorry, I just have to put it out there.
Agree,
Yeah,
I agree.
because
Yeah,
every
both
time
sides,
I'm
okay.
looking at the camera, I'm actually looking behind, and I'm looking behind the camera, I'm looking at Aisha as well, and she's like nodding her head in agreement. So,
And again, that's the whole idea of communication piece, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have to, just like how Aisha said, you have to voice it. Like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna voice it.
Yeah.
As educators, we're not gonna know, right? So
Okay,
that's
valid
that's
point,
the-
valid
that's
point,
the
valid
idea of
point. Yeah, and I think, look, it really comes down to communication.
Right.
Can't stress this word enough. Look, no one has a crystal ball, okay? And no teacher is going to go out of their way and saying, oh, look at that girl, she wears a hijab, she's a practicing Muslim, hence, therefore, she observes Ramadan, she's not going to, want to be taught sex ed, blah, 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 blah. There's no checklist in
Right.
her or his mind
Right.
that they will then, instructionally start enforcing.
Right.
Doesn't happen that way.
Right.
That protocol, if you
Comes from
will,
the parent.
comes through the parents.
Right. Exactly.
No, please, Aisha, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I also want to mention, don't wait for your child to come to you and ask you questions, because sometimes that might be too late. They've already learned a whole bunch of things that slowly seeped into their minds over the years, right?
Mm,
And then they come and ask you, right?
yeah.
So it's really important from a young age to start talking to them about these things before they even see it. Like, I've talked about in our family, this is the things you're going to see. These are the things that might be taught. Remember, this is against our religion. So when you hear about it,
Right.
just remember this has nothing to do with our Islam, right?
Right.
So it's really important to prepare them for that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
100%. 100%.
So, he asked me, like, oh, isn't this wrong? Like Yusuf asked me, isn't this wrong? This and this and this. I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, exactly. Like we talked about. So it's important to make sure
Yeah.
before they even question you about a flag, for example.
Yeah.
Talk to them about it prior to that, so that
Right.
They were
they don't
aware.
hear it from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Look, it all comes from a place of respect,
Right.
but that respect,
And we have to respect each other, right? That's
That
that's the whole idea of a religion. Right?
100%.
Right.
100%. Our religion is based on respect
Right.
of all faiths, of all
Yep.
backgrounds, of all walks
Everything.
of life.
Correct.
at the same time, again, inclusivity also includes a Muslim point of view,
Correct.
right? And a Muslim way of life, right?
Mm.
So as a Muslim way of life, you know, there are some things that we as practicing Muslims don't agree with, but we have to let the teachers know, right?
Mhm.
They're not going to go out of their way to say, oh, okay, yes, and kind of self-decide.
Mhm.
You know, it has to come from the parents.
Right.
And you don't
ev-
want to put hate in their
Yeah.
hearts and minds either. You
No,
want to
no,
remind them
exactly.
that there are people that might believe in one thing and another thing, but this is what we believe.
Yeah, and that's
100%,
okay.
100%,
That's okay.
100%. Look, everyone has their own value system,
Mhm.
and
Right.
and this value system is part of the curriculum as well.
Mhm.
You know, it is part of TDSB and it's part of Wired DSB to kind
Right.
of celebrate, you know, Muslim History Month,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Exactly.
They have an entire curriculum or guidebook on how to celebrate Ramadan, right,
Right.
guys?
Mhm.
Like this is all standard now.
Right.
There's one more thing I just kind of want to put out there in the space. As Muslims, it's really up to us to kind of not fall back on those cultural norms. And
Mhm.
we've discussed this on the podcast many a time.
Mhm.
Like there's this cultural definition or understanding of Islam. Then there's what our religion teaches us via Quran and Hadith. That, look, guys, at the end of the day, you know, my parents came here in the 60s. Aisha, you're born here in Canada like me. You know, so basically our parents emigrated here from wherever, different parts of the world. But in our parents' time, i.e. our grandparents, it was that time where it was like, hey, as a grandparent, you know, your grandparents never talked to me when I was growing up. They'd be like, hey, what grade are you in? Okay, that's it. That was the extent of the
That's it.
conversation.
Yeah.
That was the extent of the engagement, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I kind of have to chuckle at that because as a parent now in 2024, we're hardwired to kind of be, you know, engage.
Yep, exactly.
It's a different mindset. It's a different mentality. It's a different way of operating as a parent.
Right.
100%. And it has to be this way,
It has
right?
to be done this way.
Mhm.
Aisha,
Yeah.
to your point, Farhan, to your point, if we don't connect with our children, and like you guys are also saying, if we don't correct our children, then somebody else will do it on our behalf.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So,
Well said.
Aisha Pai, please, another question.
Yeah, Jazakallah, we have a few more here, but I think we've discussed them, but I'll display them so you can maybe summarize.
Oh, for sure.
And we're also approaching the top of the hour, so maybe quick summaries on these. 'cause
Wow,
we
time
have
went
this.
by
So
really
Yeah,
fast.
I was like, an hour? How is
We
this
could
going to
keep
be done?
going.
Exactly, because I think we have discussed some of these, but
What
if
is
there's
your
anything
approach
to add.
just building
So based on
relationship
your
with
experiences, what are ways to approaching teachers and building relationships with them?
Mhm.
What are some common things parents do wrong when approaching teachers?
Yeah, I think we talked about the whole aggressive approach, have an open dialogue, and you know, ask your teacher which method of communication they would prefer.
What communicating tool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
tool.
Oh,
for
yeah.
example, for
Okay.
myself, I'm personally more like phone call type, right? I like to
Mhm.
have like a conversation through
Mhm.
through the phone. So that's just my preference, right? And I actually try to push, being an intermediate teacher, push merit, especially if it's a question which they're asking on the behalf of us of their child. I'm like, you know what? That's something that they should be asking. So I tell them, ask me, and you know, there's my students go on. I have a Google Classroom set up,
Yeah.
so they ask their questions there, and I'm able to answer. So that is something that I prefer, right? But it's always a good idea to connect with the teacher, because sometimes there's an app, or there's email, or there's different agenda Google Classroom. So there's different methods, and even for my own kids, like Zia, for example, the teacher communicates through agenda. That
Okay.
works the best for her. So that
Right.
So that's that. It's important to
For
set
ourselves.
that set that stage right at the beginning of the year. And if you haven't already, ask the teacher what's a preferred way of communicating with you.
Okay.
I know at the end of the day, I have some parents come up to me and talk to me. That's the time they like to talk, and then I give them that time. So it's important to shows the teacher interest that you're interested in, talking about the child.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. That is really good to know. I would
That was a good
wouldn't
question,
ever
yeah,
kind of
for
enter
sure.
my frame of
Yeah.
mind. So that's really
Yeah,
good to know.
and I'm gonna say at the same time, like, be fair to the teacher as well. If you're gonna message the teacher at night or over the
Mhm.
weekend, you might not get a response right away.
Yeah.
And then for me, I try to message like
things that are important, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
not
yeah.
just not
Yeah.
too many messages either, but it is important to keep that communication open.
Oh,
Sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, like anybody in the corporate world knows, especially here in Ontario, there is the right to disconnect,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
please be mindful of that.
Mhm.
And, you know, people, especially i.e. the teachers, will get back to the parent. So,
Mhm.
all right. Producer Kashif, another question, please.
Yeah, so the next question was, as parents, what are the most important issue or two happening in schools we may not be aware of?
Oh.
What is the best way for us to learn about experiences our children may be going through? So I'm assuming this is more like sort of the social environment and some of the things that might be impacting children that, you know, for high school, I'm guessing is completely different than elementary, but and intermediate. But what are maybe some things that parents might not be aware of that their children are going through in schools? I know we mentioned bullying as one of
Yeah,
them.
I
and
was.
then-
Yeah,
I'm
I was
gonna
gonna say that.
honestly, that's one that is being overlooked, and it's an important one. I'm gonna go back to that one for sure.
I agree.
Okay.
What's
Well,
another, like, I'm thinking of a top one that just not doing their work in school, and I find they're bringing it home and not getting, like, parents are not looking at their backpacks and they're not getting the work done. So some students they're not very productive in class. They might be given that time, but they're not doing their work, and then when it's sent home, it's, you know, and then for example, I'll communicate with the parents and say, can you, just this weekend, I told them, can you make sure they get their work done?
right.
So, for example, they had homework, 11 out of 20 finished it, and the other half didn't. So then I sent an email out and I said, can you please make sure you bring it by Monday? So it's that parent involvement, making sure that they check their child's work, and because sometimes they're not getting their work done in school.
Right.
So,
Right.
And especially with our board, we're moving more towards Google Classroom and putting homework on there. So it's honestly an app like that's on your phone, Google Classroom. Download it, you know, find out your children's login and log all of them in there. So it's easy for you to check in terms of what's being covered, you know, what topics are being covered, what homework is there.
Yeah.
It's a great communication tool. So and most, especially after COVID, most of the teachers have that.
Yeah. So I'll put it out there that my limited experience with Google Classroom was with Eliza going back to the time of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Now, question, as a parent, can I access Google
Yeah,
Classroom?
of course. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Of course. That's why I said that. Just
Yeah.
download the app and find out your child's username and password. And, you know, if they don't give it to you, you can always ask the teacher and log on, and all the information's on there.
So
I have like all the kids
and
log in.
any
on my
email
phone.
that comes through, I have it open, so it automatically comes to my phone, so I can see what homework.
So
Yeah, exactly. They pass
yeah,
into your
I don't want to get
email.
too technical, but I mean, so if I'm basically using my own daughter's email and password, then I'm logging in as her, not as a parent, correct?
So yeah, you're logging in as her, not as a
Okay.
parent.
I would.
There is a invitation for parents on Google Classroom, but that depends on the teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really, I guess, my
Yeah.
question.
I
Okay.
guess with
But,
the age, with the younger ones, it's different. They
Yeah.
they can log in with their parents and the kids' information, but
Yeah.
with the older ones, how would you?
No,
what would
I
you
do the
say?
same. I do the same. Even with Aisha, I have like all her courses that are there. You know, just to kind of, again, like be aware.
Yeah, be aware.
Yeah,
Monitor. I mean,
I'm not like I'm not posting. I'm not like getting after her. Oh, this
No.
assignments do
Yeah,
that. No,
yeah.
like I'm just trying to like, you know, just
Yeah,
have
make
like
sure you keep the boundaries.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, an extra lens.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
that's
extra.
that's an honest answer. Okay.
Yeah,
Producer Kashif.
it just triggered some thought for I had too. So you mentioned parents not doing, not checking the backpack, what homework they have.
Yeah.
I find there's another extreme of parents that have crossed over from supporting their children to actually doing the work of their kids. And I always
great question.
like I always
Great
tell
question.
I won't name them, but a few
Yeah.
people in my family, I'm like, why are you doing this for them?
Yes,
This does not
yes.
look like
Especially the assignments, like they bring it in, and it's like
Yeah,
this is
the
like
projects
done by-
that they
yeah,
take
some
home.
of the projects
and then
take
you
home.
can tell which ones.
we're very aware of your child's work because we spend a lot of time with them. So if you do decide to do them, then we
Yeah.
just know, and we don't tell you, but we have it in our mind that that's how it's what's happening.
I'm wondering, like, do you have any advice for parents that might be doing this? Like, what are the
not to do it?
Well, of
like,
course,
what are the
yeah.
consequences of that? Like,
You know,
Oh,
for myself, what I do is that I only assess if it goes
In
home.
class,
If it goes home, I'm not assessing
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It
It's
has to
extra
be
practice.
it's just extra practice. My assessment is
So
is done in
if those
observation
parents
class.
think they're helping, it's
Yeah.
actually not helping.
Yeah, and
Right?
you're not getting away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's,
basically, we're
that's it.
assessing work in class and we're assessing tests, projects that are all done in class. So we're not. That's just extra practice. So
Right.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
just
so
extra practice. But,
Producer Kash, I'm gonna ask a loaded question here. All right, guys. So
you're welcome to guide them. You're welcome to kind of like help them
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you
help
know
them out,
help them
but-
out,
Yeah.
but not do it.
Honestly, I
Yeah.
think what happens, because like I said, I'm father of 2 young boys. It's a lot on the parents have to learn patience, right? Because I'm helping with him something, then I get
Yeah.
frustrated and just end up doing
End up
it,
doing it
right?
for them.
Yeah.
So I think a
Yeah.
lot of this is me internally started going back and learning that patience, learning, because we're just so wired now. With Mushtaq says all the time, those 10-second reels to swipe
Yeah.
up, swipe up,
Yeah,
swipe
yeah,
up,
yeah.
that the patience is not there
There.
anymore. So
Oh,
that's
that's
something
good.
I need
That's
to
a good-
So
that's a good
remind
analogy.
speaking of patience,
a good analogy.
we don't do this often, but we've gone 8 minutes over the top of the hour. But I think this is a good question to ask, and it's a loaded question. So, me being just me, and now being in the field of AI for about almost 2 years,
Oh no.
I have to ask this question, guys. Okay, so
We
the
don't know the
world,
answer.
the world
We don't know the
knows. Yes, Aisha. And again, I so
Yes,
wish you were kind
we
of placed a
don't-
little bit in frame.
Yeah, that's a
because
very loaded question.
You're a part of this question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chat GTP, which I chose.
Thank you for coming, everyone, for a happy happy strong families. We will see you next week.
Shut the show down. There you go. All right, I will hand over you now become the co-host. We'll do the Aisha and Farhan, the Farhan and Aisha show.
Yeah.
Like guys,
It
look,
is-
honestly, it's maybe for more for secondary school students. Okay, like I have cautioned Alicia, my eldest, many a time that, and it's simple guidance. If you use Chat GTP or any kind of one of those AI tools, Perplexity, anything like that,
Yep.
as an
Paraphrasing.
assistive tool for research,
Mhm.
right? Just like the library. Just like back in my day, I
Mhm.
still remember a time, and I have enough gray hair to prove it, but microfiche.
Yep.
Does
Remember
anybody know
microfiche?
what
Yeah,
that
I remember
is?
that. Yep.
Does anybody know what
Yeah,
microfiche
I know
is?
what that is.
Google
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I know what
Google
that
it.
is, yep.
You know
Yep,
it.
yep,
I
yep.
know it. People are like, what is he
Yep.
saying? What is microfiche? The Boolean library system, the
yep,
Boolean code,
yep,
right?
yep.
Going to the library, doing the research, Encyclopedia Britannica,
Yeah, yep,
okay?
yep.
These are all outdated terms. People now, kids now, students now simply use Chat GTP,
Right.
whether it's on their phone, on their laptop, a friend of a friend. This is all being done, whether parents acknowledge it or not. Now,
Right.
again, coming back to the color commentary here, I've told Alicia, my daughter, in grade 12, eldest, that, you know, how much of it is going to be your homework?
Right.
And at the end of the school year, how much of it will be you versus a machine?
Right.
And, you know, extrapolate that to real world, you know, when you graduate, when you become a professional in whatever field, is it really you that's done the hard
Mhm.
work necessary to put in to get
Mhm.
to that stage?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, that's a very tricky question.
Mm.
I know the board is working on trying to find ways to kind of, you know, I remember it was Turn It In. I don't know if you heard of that. Turn It
yes.
In. Yep,
Yes,
that
yes,
was
yes.
one of the board tools that they used to use a while back. I know they're working on it, but
to cross-examine also.
yeah,
right?
exactly. They what they do is that it scans it and it tries to find like some sort of pattern or picks
Mhm.
up words
Mhm.
or sentences that are directly
Yeah.
connected to the internet.
So to
But,
parents
um,
and children, teachers are becoming aware.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
teachers might not. I'll be honest, don't know about this right now.
Yeah, we haven't.
A lot
It's,
do,
it's fairly new.
and there's you can almost tell if you've used it. There's like a pattern,
Yeah.
right? And it's not like you said, it's not gonna help you. in the
Well,
future,
Right.
it'll
it helps assist you.
it helps
Yeah.
assist you
Yeah.
exactly.
Absolutely, you
Yeah.
can get just like the encyclopedia. You're looking up ideas, sure, but at the end, if you're gonna take that, hand it in.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
it also like that the teacher who has been like when I do my writing, it's like pencil paper sometimes, you know. So I know like my students' work,
Uh-huh.
right? So
Uh-huh.
all of a sudden, if they decide to, you know, go home and use something else and bring it in, I could tell that this is not there.
So
This
this
is not
is
their
kind of
work,
like
right?
my hot take on it.
Right.
and this is those times where I look straight into the camera and speak to the audience. Look, at the end of the day, it's an extension of producer Kashif's question. When a parent, whatever approach you take, whether it's helicopter parenting, tiger parenting, and all of those other buzzwords, how much of you as a parent do you really want to do your child's homework? The answer is no. Plain and simple, whether someone acknowledges it or not. For a student, if you really want ChatGPT to spit out an entire essay, it can do that. Hello, to any parent not knowing any of this, yes, it can do that. These tools, these technologies are meant to be an assistive tool. Much like back in the day when the calculator was first introduced. I'm sure many a math professor was like, oh my God, this calculator? What is this tool of the devil, device of the devil? How dare they?
Yeah.
Or a laptop or an iPad, right? During COVID, every child was instructed by design and by default, by necessity, to use said laptop and iPad. And these are tools, these are instruments, much like any of these AI tools, ChatGPT, namely the most famous one. Again, it's a tool to research, tool to kind of open up creativity, tool to help you get answers, tool to maybe help you research very quickly, just like going to that old-fashioned encyclopedia where we would go into the library, photocopy pages, or take Cole's notes. Remember Cole's notes?
Yep.
We'd actually have to go to the bookstore and buy Cole's notes
I do remember
for
that.
Shakespearean plays.
Yep.
The world's changed. It's all in an app now. But again, these are all meant to assist you as a student.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
It should never take away and be a replacement
Yes.
for you as
Correct.
the student.
Correct.
And this generation, every generation is looking for shortcuts, right?
Yeah.
So don't use that as a shortcut. It's not going to help you.
100%.
Yeah.
Future.
Yeah.
100%.
In the future.
100%.
That's it.
Okay.
Well said. You asked the question, answered it perfectly.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. Look, again, I'm just going to hand over this hat over to you and you be the co-host of the show. All right. So
Yeah, so we can end here. We just have a few comments from our, brother Kasser just posted one. Alhamdulillah, very important topic to discuss. Thank you so much for covering important topics and guidance today. Looking forward to more podcasts like this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you immensely. Yeah. Dr. Zahan Rashid, who is obviously a big contributor, big supporter of Happy Strong Family. He watches most of the episodes. So parenting is outsourced too often. Good parenting means good parenting means good husbands, better fathers, upright mothers, and great wives. Children's are sadaqah jariya.
Yep.
All the ancillaries at the end of the day will not help like parenting that is taken as the most important job in the world. So yes, Dr. Rashid with always with his wisdom, with that reminder. So with that, Brother Mushtaq, I think we're good to wrap it up.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. And just in terms of a time check, which I don't ever do on this show, we've went 15 minutes over the top of the hour. So to everyone watching this live stream, thank you so very much. And I think Brother Kesser, who is one of the co-founders of Happy Strong Family, he's already given you two guys a nod. So hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll have the Farhan and Aisha, or the Aisha and Farhan show. I'll leave that up to you to kind of thumb wrestle out and discuss at the next dinner table conversation how you can kind of be a natural extension, because as you've seen in this show, many parents are trying to understand how to connect with their children. Many parents are trying to understand how to be better parents, because as far as parenting go, schooling, whether it's being taught at a school and a private Islamic school like the Islamic Academy of Markham, or a public school, which you guys both are, TDSB and YDRSB respectively, or even with producer Kashif there, homeschooling. Schooling is tough as far as parenting goes, right? You send your kids off to school, or you teach them in your home, and it's tough, because none of us, I'd say the majority, 99.9% of us, are not teachers. You guys, again, are in that enviable position where you are teachers. So please, please, please do bring that knowledge and do bring that personality.
Right.
This is a great dynamic. I'll say it on camera.
Alhamdulillah.
You're all smiles. She's all smiles.
Alhamdulillah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You guys are husband and wife. You guys are teachers. You guys
Definitely.
have that knowledge. You guys have that passion for teaching. Please bring it to the show. It's an open
mashallah,
invitation.
no, for sure.
Brother Kashif has already given the thumbs up.
Oh, okay.
If there's any topic in particular in the future you'd like us to,
Yeah.
There you go.
Inshallah,
I'm telling you, it's going to be the Farhan Aisha
Yeah.
Farhan show, however we want to kind of title it, position it. There you go. There you go.
Jazakallah
Thank
for
you
having
again.
us.
No, Jazakallah for having us. Thank you. Thank you
All
for
right.
organizing this.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Producer Kashif, thank you. And thank you to all the watchers out there in podcast land. You can find this on YouTube. I believe Producer Kashif does an amazing job on those Instagram reels and all those shorts. So do watch and do watch often. All right. Thank you, everybody.